Hello there, and a warm welcome to the Zambia 2026 General Elections Program on Zanis TV. My name is Victor Mwila in our Lusaka studios. In this program, we travel to Luapula Province where we are examining the issue of electoral violence, its causes, its impact on communities and democracy, and what can be done to prevent it. Our team in Luapula speaks with church and civil society leaders who share practical insights on the role of citizens, political parties, and institutions in safeguarding peace before, during, and after polling day.
Hello and welcome to the Zambia 2026 General Elections Program, a Luapula edition. I'm David Ndovi, your host. Today we turn our focus to Luapula Province, where we look at electoral campaigns, violence, its causes and its consequences, and how we can prevent it, taking into account just how fragile peace can be if we take it for granted. To unpack these critical issues, I'm joined by two remarkable guests in the studio. Firstly, we have Bishop Luchile, a respected clergy and long-time resident of Mansa district. Alongside him, we have Mr. Wongan Kaira, a passionate youth advocate from the civil society and member of the district conflict management committee. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndovi, and we are extremely grateful for being considered on this particular conversation, and we look forward to having a very fruitful discussion with you. Thank you.
Bishop Luchile and Mr. Kaira, could you please describe the current pre-election political atmosphere in Luapula Province? How are the people participating in the campaigns?
Well, the political activities have reached what I can describe as the climax. We have seen a number of political activities going on in canvassing for the votes from the electorate. Generally, the picture is peaceful. We are yet to record serious incidences of violence, and this is as it should be. We are hoping and praying that the situation can continue in this particular mode. But again, we cannot take this for granted. We must put in place timely interventions so that we are able to safeguard the peace that we have cherished for a long time.
Mr. Kaira?
I think I should describe the atmosphere here as one characterized by increasing political interest, awareness, and participation. I think from the electoral process, I think we've actually witnessed, beginning with the adoptions, nomination, that we've actually had a number of young people stepping up, vying for political positions at different levels, be it at councillor level, mayoral, parliamentary level. I think this is one that we have to give a credit, especially to the young people who have positively, engaged in these democratic processes. Even just talking about, the voter education, I think we've actually seen a number of young people being recruited to do voter education just within Luapula and also beyond. Participation, I think if you look at the rallies, the political rallies, community engagement that the politicians are having today, you find that a larger portion is actually the youth themselves. So talking on the youth perspective, I would simply, and in a nutshell, describe it as very peaceful and one that is actually taking its course. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. In some past elections, we've witnessed electoral political violence with its own consequences on the electoral process. Mr. Kaira, you wear two hats, a youth advocate from the civil society and as a member of the district Conflict Management Committee. In your observation, what are the main causes of electoral violence in Luapula Province? And what forms does it take?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ndovi. I think when you talk about electoral violence, you are basically talking about any act or threat or force or harm that may or is possibly intended to influence or affect the electoral process, that is before, during, and after election. And I must also be quick to also make mention that electoral violence actually manifests, especially here in Luapula, in different forms. I'll start by talking about physical violence. I must say that physical violence can either be political clashes, between rivals, supporters of different political parties, maybe as a result of disruption of campaign meetings, destruction of campaign materials, also just the psychological aspect where we're talking about intimidation, threats, and I must also be quick to also make mention that this is also as a result of so many factors. Talking on the youth perspective, I must also be quick to make mention that issues to do with youth unemployment are actually a reality. And you find that since there is, that high rate of, unemployment, political actors tend to use, political manipulation, whereby they will actually provide short-term incentives to these young people, to indulge themselves into, political violence, and equally other factors that might also be of effect to this.
Bishop, would you like to reinforce?
Violence is violence, whether reported or not reported. It is still violence, and it must be condemned in whatever form it manifests, whether it is disruption of a political meeting, whether it is physical violence, harassing innocent citizens. It must be condemned. The major reason for all this is limited education to members of the community. We like to see a situation where we appreciate the political rights that different political actors have. People must enjoy freely the freedom of conscience, the freedom of association, and if the community gets to the place where they appreciate that these rights are constitutionally guaranteed, then we'll begin to see a better picture. That being the case, then civil society and the church, generally community, must have concerted effort so that we can change the narrative. Indeed, Luapula is generally rural, but that can't be an excuse. We must come to a place where we coexist as members of the same community and citizens of the same country. What we want at the end of the day is to see credible leaders elected to political office.
If you have just joined us, you are watching our discussion on electoral violence and peaceful participation from Mansa, Luapula Province. So far, our guests have highlighted the importance of dialogue and respect for democratic rights in preventing conflicts during elections. In the remaining part of this program, they discuss the unique role that young people, faith-based organizations, and the district conflict management committees can play in promoting peaceful campaigns and ensuring that elections remain an opportunity for citizens to choose their leaders freely and without fear. Let's get back to the discussion.
Electoral violence not only causes physical harm, but also the deeper consequences of eroding public trust in the electoral system. Indeed. At the community level in Luapula Province, how do you assess the long-term impact of violent incidents on voter confidence and willingness to turn out?
Generally, we are able to tell from 2011, 2021, and now we have to look at the 2026 general election. Luapula in the past has not been one of those provinces that have been very good in terms of civic participation. So the long-term effect of violence would mean that the numbers we have recorded in the past may likely go down and discourage especially the aged and the women from participation. Thus far, we have seen a better picture in terms of women candidates. Okay, so we have seen an improvement in the reports of violence. So we wouldn't want to go backwards. Can we make progress in the space of cutting to the very minimum political violence? If this is unchecked, we risk having very high levels of voter apathy. And that would mean that the will of the people may not be a true reflection out of the election results that we receive at the end of the day.
Okay. Mr. Kaira, anything to add?
I think I will also basically just speak on the issue of voter apathy. I think, when there is too much political intimidation, threats being thrown against, the citizens who are, in the actual sense, the electorate, it actually, undermines the democratic aspects of what a credible election should be like or should be thought. Because when such happens, a lot of citizens actually lose confidence in now, exercising their will to vote on the actual day of voting, because they are normally afraid that maybe probably as I am on the queue, something, there can be some mob that could just come there and, disrupt the entire, place. And then also just speaking to, because you also touched on the long-term aspects, it can as well lead to political loss of lives. And this is not something that we wish for our country, Zambia, and especially for also my fellow young people. I think we as young people should be ambassadors of peace and not being used as tools of violence in terms of committing such vices.
To the same aspect, Mr. Kaira, it has been observed that young people are both the main perpetrators and victims of electoral violence. Do you agree with such an assertion? What are the reasons, perhaps, behind this situation in some areas?
I think that question is somehow two-sided, but I must also be quick to mention that yes, in some situations, yes. Knowing too well, I think one fact that has to be brought to light is, young people occupy a significant portion of the population in our country, and ultimately, even when it comes to the electorate. So we should also get to understand the relation between conflict and the youth themselves. Yes, others might view young people to say they are actually in the midst of electoral violence, knowing too well that they are actually active participants in these activities during the electoral process. But that is actually far away from the perception that young people are actually tools, or rather, victims or perpetrators of violence. Yeah, I think young people have actually been leading away in terms of promoting peace. I think the only challenge that we have is political actors have always, tried by all means to take advantage of the vulnerability, the economic vulnerability of these young people, knowing too well that these young people actually lack, the basic needs, such as, employment, because someone has to actually sustain themselves. And whenever someone is not having something to keep them busy, and at the end of the day earning something to to earn a living.
Perhaps let's give Bishop to
And, and I don't mind David is a devil's workshop. And so we would like to, from the church perspective, we would like to note that there has been abuse of the elderly abusing the young. Us, the elders, must be fountains of good counsel to the young people, teaching them good values of how we should live and coexist. When all is said and done, ultimately it comes to the deterioration in terms of the values we have as a community, as a people. We must come to a place where we appreciate diversity of views. We must come to a place where we appreciate the fact that political competition must not spell life or death, dead or alive, winning at all costs. The sovereign will of the people must prevail at the end of the day. So we want to acknowledge that yes, the young people have been abused by selfish political interests, and this shouldn't be the case. And when we have noted that we have a problem in that space, then now we must take a step further in educating the community that these activities are actually criminal. They are criminal and can cost somebody's life and future. Okay, the consequences of political violence do not just end with injury to innocent people or loss of life. They can also imply legal consequences where somebody is imprisoned for offenses against innocent citizens. So young people must appreciate that the electoral process is governed by laws. And these laws that are governing the electoral process come with consequences. There is no exception that because the violence was done during an election, then you are excused. No, the consequences are far reaching, and members of society must begin to educate the young people who, from a simplistic view of life, end up indulging and engaging in activities that have far reaching consequences.
Bishop, the church and faith-based organizations play a moral and guiding role in promoting peaceful elections. How do you think religious leaders can intervene, more especially to prevent elections from degenerating into violent conflict?
The church and the faith-based organizations have a very big role to play in prevention of electoral violence by, number one, providing education. Number two, by providing counsel to conflicting parties. And number three, by playing the mediatory role in bringing together the conflicting parties so that before we get to violence, we can amicably resolve such outstanding conflicts.
Mr. Kaira, the DCMC is mandated to prevent and manage electoral conflicts. As a youthful member of the committee, what unique role do you think young people can play in mediation and prevention of electoral violence?
In fact, I'm actually grateful and humbled that you are considered as young people to be part of this committee. Of course, these maybe due to the interest of the viewers. These are committees that are specifically established by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, specifically for the purposes of, settling and resolving electoral conflict or disputes that may arise during the electoral process. And it would also be interesting to know that actually these committees are neutral, autonomous committees that are there to mediate disputes and conflict that may arise between parties. It might be either part A, part B, conflicting over maybe disruption of a campaign meeting, a campaign rally, so on and so forth, or destruction of campaign materials. I think as young people, I think from the onset, I've clearly stated that young people shouldn't actually be viewed as actually perpetrators of violence, but actually peace builders. And with us being considered in this particular committee, it actually, young people are quite unique in terms of how they connect or rather relate with grassroots communities, especially with the youth, because we understand the language which the youth are able to understand and relate well with, and we are also able to swiftly initiate certain strategies and approaches that these young people can actually buy into to keep them away from electoral violence. And that is why young people are equally very much important to be placed in such committees. And then away from that, Ms. Andovi, it is also actually going to be interesting to know that we're actually living in a digital world. There are certain things that are actually happening. I'll talk about it might be manipulation happening on digital platforms such as social media, and we know that social media today is actually flooded with the youthful population. So through these particular opportunities, we help in terms of helping our fellow young people, preach about peace on those, or share about peace on those particular platforms, so that this information should not only be concentrated in one particular community, but can go wide.
Mr. Kaira, as we come to the conclusion of the program, what is your message to young people in Luapula Province? How can young people transform from being tools of manipulation into guardians of peace as we head towards the 13th August?
My message to the young people is very clear. Young people, your vote is the power that you have and weapon that you have in terms of demanding for your voices to be heard, or rather concerns to be heard. Yeah, not the use of fist. So for us, it's about, young people should be responsible in terms of their conduct in this particular electoral process, and should actually be ambassadors of goodwill. I think we should stay away from actually being used as tools of violence. Let us be responsible as young people. I think there is actually more that the nation actually demands from the young people. We always say we are the future leaders of today and tomorrow. So the future starts now by us being responsible in our conduct before, during, and after the election.
Okay, Bishop, what are your last remarks?
My appeal is to all leaders in the community, the traditional leadership, the clergy, civic leaders, including all political actors. We have only one country to protect for the sake of tomorrow. This doesn't have to be a matter of life and death. We must begin to look at Zambia as a better community without violence.
Well, we've come to the end of the program, and I wish to deeply extend my gratitude to our guests, Mr. Kaira and Bishop Lushile, for having spent your time out with us to share your wisdom and your views regarding this important topic. To our viewers, stay peaceful and stay informed.
Thank you, David, and that brings us to the end of this edition of the Zambia 2026 General Elections Program. Our thanks once again to our guests in Luapula Province for sharing their perspectives on the importance of peaceful elections and every citizen's role in promoting Zambia's democratic values. On behalf of the entire production team from Luapula Province and here in Lusaka, my name is Victor Mwila. Thank you for watching. Join us next time as we continue bringing you voices and perspectives from across the country in the build-up to the 2026 general elections. It's bye for now.